So this is going to be kind of a different video here today, because I wanted to respond to some recent events, as well as a tweet that was making the rounds on social media. Right now, in the Eastern Conference of the 2025 Stanley Cup Playoffs, the Carolina Hurricanes and the Florida Panthers are in a stranglehold. The Panthers are up 1-0, and the Canes looked really, really bad in Game 1. Now, game number 2 is later tonight, and actually it's going to be a little bit after this video is published, so maybe it's an ill-informed video to make at this time, but I feel like this commentary is more so catered to the Red Wings fan base rather than the Carolina fan base, so it's kind of okay, right? Today we're talking about a guy on Carolina that has been producing at a pretty reasonably good amount for this Canes team. It is none other than former Detroit Red Wing Shayne Gostisbehere, aka Ghost Bear. Because the 32-year-old has himself 8 points in 11 games so far with the Canes in the playoffs, and he followed up a 45-point in 70-game campaign in the regular season. This is his second stint with the Hurricanes. He went over to Detroit after finishing off the 23 playoffs with the Canes. He has significantly improved his point production from back then, though. He had 3 points in 15 games with the Canes in the playoffs in 2023, had a 56-point campaign with Detroit in 23-24, and then had the season he has had now. In fact, he had an assist in Game 1 against Florida, where, although he did get the point, Carolina still lost pretty badly at 5-2. Now, the reason we are making this video is because of a tweet posted by Justin Satawa from 2 days ago. It's an interesting thought, and I wanted to dive into it here. Steve Yzerman was right about Shayne Gostisbehere. The biggest problem for the Detroit Red Wings is 5v5 scoring and the penalty kill. In the playoffs, Gostisbehere is proving to be a power play merchant who also doesn't play on the PK. Gostisbehere is a -5, with 5 of his 7 points coming on the power play in 11 games. He would have only added to the issues the Red Wings had defensively. Detroit having that $3.5 million in cap space over the next 2 years is better in Steve Yzerman's pocket. Now, that is indeed the contract that he has. It's $3.2 million a year till the end of 2026-2027, and he is a -7 right now in the Stanley Cup Playoffs. In fact, in the game that he had the point on Tuesday against Florida, he was a -2. Shayne Gostisbehere is getting most of his production on the man advantage, and he's doing so at a pretty incredible rate. If you take a look at the Carolina Hurricanes, it's so interesting, but so many of these Hurricanes guys actually do have positive plus-minus ratings. The majority of the team is a +8 or a 7 or a 3 or a 2 or a 1. Shayne Gostisbehere is by far dead last on the team in plus-minus, despite the fact that he has 8 points in 11 games. The thought process here is that even though Gostisbehere is a productive, offensively capable power play quarterbacking defenseman, you could very well say that he may not have actually been what the Red Wings need. Their power play was pretty good, the Detroit Red Wings, and even if they lost out on Shayne Gostisbehere, they were still able to get, a top 5 power play in the league this most previous season? I'm just going to check it out here. Yeah, they were 4th overall. The Red Wings had no issues on the man advantage in 2024-2025 when you look at it from a holistic perspective. However, in terms of penalty kill, the Red Wings were last. Not great, in the slightest. So with that in mind, let's go back over onto the tweet that started this conversation and read what some fans have to say. This is exactly it. Shayne Gostisbehere is elite on the power play, but bad in his own end, and needs sheltering bad on 5v5. I would have gladly had him back on the wings if they needed help on the power play, but the one thing this guy is good at is the one thing Detroit doesn't need. Now, there is another perspective that brings itself up. Dazer says this: if the Wings had Ghost and Wallman on the team this year, they would have been in the playoffs. Both cheap enough contracts, it doesn't matter. And both of these guys are 100 times better than Gustafsson, Hall, Sherratt, Petrie, and Albert Johansson. Now, I'm not sure if that really is the case here. Walman, for sure, has been a very good force in the Edmonton organization, and the fact that Stevie Y traded away a draft pick to send him away, that will still boggle my mind. But if the Red Wings still had Gostisbehere and Walman, yeah, it is true, they probably would have had even more offense, and maybe even a top 3 power play. But again, that's not really what they needed more of this season. They were already fine on the man advantage. It's always great to have more, but you gotta think about it like, hey, would it have been more beneficial to keep a guy like Gostisbehere or get somebody who's a little bit more penalty kill focused and defensively inclined? Although I can understand the perspective that says, like, yeah, I mean, the Red Wings weren't great on the penalty kill, so you really need a good, solid, defensively minded player. You didn't get that, so what gives? Another reply goes out there and says, to think, the 2002 Detroit Red Wings had 4 Selke Trophy winners on the team between Fedorov, Yzerman, Draper, and Datsyuk. Maybe that's why they were so good. And I think defensive responsibility is starting to be emphasized a lot more, especially in today's NHL, where goal scoring has gone up, the goalie pads got smaller, and now you're starting to see crazy numbers get put up there year by year, especially compared to 10 years ago when Jamie Benn was winning the Art Ross with 87 points on a season. The league is changing, folks. You don't necessarily need more offense because everybody is providing more offense. You just need to be able to get a goaltender and some solid penalty killing. The Red Wings didn't really have that last season. Now, I will say, there is another perspective that I also did want to highlight here, because I do think there are some other parts that may not have been uncovered yet, like this reply. Horace McMorris says, no, Gostisbehere and Walman were very much missed on the ice, but not because about the scoring per se. 5v5 offense is about transitions. It's about breakouts. It's about D-men passing the puck up that quickly start things. And yes, Gostisbehere would have helped immensely with that. I think that perspective is fair. There is a puck-moving offensive quality to his game that does present itself in the defensive zone, but still, Gostisbehere has bad defensive metrics. He isn't scoring much at 5v5 anyway, and he's doing all that with a Carolina team that had players that are as offensively capable, if not maybe even a tad worse than what the Red Wings have. In fact, it's so interesting to look at the Red Wings and acknowledge that so many of their guys produced points. I mean, they had 3 guys over 69 points, they had an 80-point guy, they had a whole bunch of guys over 30, but a bunch of these players are all minuses. So I think that speaks more so to the defensive responsibility rather than just the offense that you would be looking at with a Shayne Gostisbehere. He does not help the Red Wings with what they needed. So, Steve Yzerman, good choice to let him go? You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, whether or not you agree or disagree with this entire thought process here, but I wanted to open up the floor because Gostisbehere is playing for Carolina in this upcoming game number 2. If he scores a hat trick today and it's all at even strength, then okay, like, I will eat my words and I'll shut up and I'll stop making Gostisbehere slander videos on YouTube. But for now, most of his productions at 5v5, he's the lowest plus-minus guy on the team by far, which usually indicates something at the very least. I know a lot of people don't like to credit plus-minus. I'm one of those people too, but there is some context that can be gained by just looking at the stat and how it's displayed. So I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Shayne Gostisbehere and whether or not Steve Yzerman was right to let him go. I hope you enjoyed this video. 9 and bye.